but I don't know as much as my next guest. He is an pollster extraordinaire, somebody that everybody knows, because when it comes to looking at the polls, whether it's Republican or Democrat, but for the most part Republican. If I'm mistaken, I apologize, sir. But that is his reputation. He is on top of these elections, day in, day out, night in, night out. This is what he does. He is arguably the most renowned in the business when it comes to this. I'm talking about the one and only Frank Luntz, who is on the show with yours truly right now. What's up, my man? How are you? How's everything?
I can't believe I'm doing this with you. I can't, so we know each other a little bit. You and I probably spent 3 or 4 times together in the last 15, 20 years. The fact that I'm on your show is remarkable to me. I want you to know that you and Chris Cuomo have the most amazing chemistry, and you're at the top of your game. And I want all your listeners and your viewers to know this. We worked for ESPN several years ago, and no sports journalist ever tested as well as you did in your commentaries. Whether people agree or disagree, they love your attitude, they love your approach, and they think you are awesome what you do. So thanks for including me. And hopefully the signal, I'm at West Point, doesn't have the best signal in the world. Hopefully it's good enough that I can communicate with you and your listeners.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to get those words from you. I really, really appreciate it. And for the benefit of my listeners, I have agreed to come up to West Point on October 29th to speak at West Point. You have invited me, and I'm going to speak. If I remember correctly, I believe it is to over 700 cadets. Is that correct?
We never know. One can never promise exactly how many people are going to be there because we don't know what situation we're going to be in. But you're going to actually have
Right.
lunch with all 4,000 of them. And you,
Oh.
Mr. Smith, have to bring them their food and clear the table.
Oh,
It's a,
I will happily do so. I will happily do so. Let's get into the debate that took place last night because it's inescapable. We have to do that. You heard what I said. I think that Kamala Harris won the debate last night. I think she came across as a bit more polished, more prepared, certainly avoided some of the issues, but it ain't her job to make sure the issues are brought up. It's the opponent's jobs to make sure that they get after her, and Trump seemed ill prepared to do so. Your overall thoughts on the performance of both?
well, I actually think it's the responsibility of the candidates to tell us the truth, to let us know what
Okay.
we need to know, and it's our right to demand it from the candidates. And I have to explain to people that I'm less concerned about this election and more concerned about the next generation, about how ugly
So am
things have
I.
become, how partisan, how divided, polarized, and toxic. Second is I don't believe it's as much as she won last night as Trump lost. Number one, he did not focus on the issue that mattered most, inflation, and I cannot explain why. Because it was given to him several times, and every time he got a question on inflation, he answered on something else. Third,
Mm.
he lost his composure. He looked mean, he looked angry, he never looked at her. Do you realize how many women looked at him and said, you know what? That's my ex husband. That's the son that really bothers me. It makes them mad that you show that kind of contempt for your opponent that you can't even look them straight in the eye. You're showing the video behind you. Watch how often. There she goes. She turns and looks at him because it's a sign of respect. It's a sign of human interaction. He didn't have it. Number four, I don't know what the hell this is about eating dogs and cats. I don't understand any of that. It's what he talked about. It's what everyone's talking about today. And number five, he had a great conclusion, a great closing. If you understand that these problems exist, why have you done nothing about them? That's what he asked to Harris. But the other 100 minutes, it was a disaster for him. Now, she, okay, you can say that she should have been more candid. You can say that it's up to Trump to force it from her, but she should want to provide it. We need more truth in this country. We need more
Hmm.
candor in this country. We need less politics. It's not who wins and who loses, but it actually is, to some degree, how we play the game that matters. This isn't entertainment. This isn't sports.
Right.
He can do better.
But Frank, allow me to interject. I get that, and I totally agree with you for our benefit. But if you're trying to win the election, and inflation is a huge problem, and you don't necessarily have a potent enough argument to offset what he might throw at you, I'm not going to knock her for not inviting the subject or trying to be evasive with it. If we've got a border issue and there's 10.5 million immigrants crossing the borders illegally, and you know that can cost you votes with independent, I'm not going to get on her for trying to evade the subject. If he is not adroit enough to bring it up and to address her and attack her cogently on the subject, that's his problem. One could easily argue, wouldn't you say?
Yes, this is his problem, but it's our problem because in the end, she's going to win. And in the end, we have to deal with whatever she says, whatever she does is going to affect us. So I'd rather have people up there who tell the truth. And I'm going to relate this to you. You've never held back in your career. Even in times when if I were advising you, I would have said, don't deal with that issue. Don't say it that way. You're a truth teller. Your attitude is exactly what I wish we had in politics, which is people said what they meant what they said, and then did what they said. And that has not been happening in American politics. She's an example of this. I thought last night she beat him, but in the end, it was not good for anybody. And the real loser last night was America.
Well, I'm not going to visit that subject too much in terms of what you said about me because you've asked me, have I thought about running for office? And along with a whole bunch of other people over the last year, it ain't happening. I'm not running for office. I'm not going to do that. But you did. Let me go back to you because something you was quoted as saying, I think you tweeted this, that Trump was about Trump blowing the election. You've never seen anyone that has done so much to blow its election. It falls in line with what I've indicated, that I think is going to go down as the biggest choke job in political history. What do you say to that? Explain.
It's very easy. And there are two tweets. I was tweeting all through the debate last night. And there are two tweets that I'll raise with you on this show. One where I was critical of him and his people went crazy on me. And one where I was critical of Harris and her people went crazy on me. In his case, if you want to have that comparison, that side-by-side comparison, which he did, on inflation and immigration, then you have to draw. You have to give the numbers and you have to explain why it happened and what your solutions are. And he couldn't wait to get off of inflation to talk about anything but inflation. And it's so easy. Stephen, it's food and fuel, housing and healthcare, F squared, H squared. And it affects people in their day-to-day lives and affects their long-term quality of life. As far as immigration, it's not just about what's happening at the border, it's safety and security and doing those things to make the country strong. He can show easily that the decisions of the Biden-Harris campaign made things worse for Americans at the border and across the country. I also want to address the tweet that I said about her, because I know that it's blown up, where I criticized the facial expressions.
Yes, you did.
Don't do it. There you go. Don't do it. People saw it as acting. They saw it as fake. She's raising legitimate points, but it's hurting her credibility. And it did fit into female stereotypes. People went nuts on me for saying this. This is the truth, that she undercut her message. But for some reason, I'm not allowed to bring it up because I can criticize him for his behavior, and that's okay.
Right.
But I can't criticize her for doing the same thing. I'm a debate coach. I am an expert in body language. These are things that I've been studying for 40 years now. And she undercut. Look at that look. Who sits that way? Who puts their hand like that underneath? You. I don't know if you edited this just for this program, but it was constant. And the public, because I'm watching it with over 200 people, and they're booing her for this. They thought she had a better communication. They thought she gave better messaging, but they thought that the facial expressions undermine her credibility.
But Frank, real quickly, when you say you were sitting with 200 people, how many of them were conservatives / Republicans? How many of them were liberals / progressives? How many of them were independents?
It was everyone. It was everyone left, center, and right. It was it was the entire gambit of politics. And I want to emphasize, these people thought she won the debate, but they thought that she undercut her messaging with facial acting is what they said. And
But
that's
what
not
if
good
she
for anybody.
but what if she's able to make the argument that I was sitting like this and I was laughing and what have you, because by mocking him seemingly, I knew it would agitate him, which ultimately lent itself towards me winning the debate because I got him off key, I got him off message, and that was the objective of it. One could easily argue that point, Frank.
Yes, they could, but they're agitating Trump, and at the same time, they're agitating the millions and tens of millions of people watching the debate. So you
Mm.
agitated the candidate who you're running against, but you're agitating the people who support you. Look, we all do it. You do it with your voice. I do it with my hands. We all do it, but we're not all running for president. And in the end, authenticity, genuineness, candor is what the public is
Mm-hmm.
looking for, not an actor.
Two more questions before I let you get on out of here. Number one, a lot of people out there are saying that it was 3 against 1, that that the moderators were all over him, but they let her off the hook. I just felt it was her agitating him, and they were flowing with that. But nevertheless, I know that the right is going to have a different opinion than the left, and I get that. What was your take on that?
I I wondered how many times they fact checked him, which is very legitimate. But they should have done the same thing with her. I thought it would have been the outcome would have been the perception of a more balanced debate. Now he did get 6 extra minutes than her. So if you're saying that this whole thing was set up to make him look bad and make her look good, they gave him 6 extra minutes. Here's the problem: the more he spoke, the worse he got. He
Mm.
should speak less, and Harris should speak more. The only time that we've ever had in modern politics where a candidate actually did damage by talking more was Sarah Palin running for vice president under John McCain in 2012.
Yeah.
Sorry, in 2008. The more she spoke, the worse it got for her.
Last question to you. Does Trump need another debate, or should he avoid it and just march to the election, have his rallies, let her have her rallies, and let the American people decide that way? What is your
That
suggestion? Who needs it? Yeah, what is your suggestion?
people make decisions based on side by side comparisons. And you notice the split screen during the entire debate. Side by side is his only opportunity to take her on. But frankly, if I'm her campaign and he's already said that he won't accept the Fox News hosts, I'm going to say, you know what? We offered it to them. He didn't want to do it. Fine. He'll go his way. We'll go our way. And we'll go right through election day. And then she wins. He needs to get on his knees and beg for another debate. And guess what? He ain't going to do it because Donald Trump doesn't beg. He doesn't admit mistakes. He has no humility. And all of these are going to hurt him come election day.
So you think that Kamala Harris is going to win the election? If you had to guess today, you'd say she's going to win today.
And you emphasize the point today. As of today, Harris is the next president. She will need a slip up. Trump cannot do it alone. Harris will have to say something very upsetting to a large number of people for her to lose at this point. Is it possible? Absolutely. Is it likely? No.
Pollster extraordinaire, the one and only Frank Luntz, right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show for the very first time. I appreciate you, my man. Thank you so much. You know I'll be calling you as this election draws near. Appreciate you so much. Thank you, my man. Take care of yourself.
You got it, man.
The one and only Frank Luntz right here with Stephen A. You heard what he had to say. If the election were today, Kamala Harris would be the next president of the United States, and that Donald Trump needs to beg for a second debate.